Hi team, welcome to my session on Coffee with Prabh, and today we're going to discuss about CISSP AI topics questions. As you know, the IC2 has revised the syllabus and they added, not revised the syllabus, they have given a brief about of adding a AI topics in their certification preparation. So I thought, let me make a coffee shot on that. My name is Prabh, and for more information, you can check my LinkedIn profile. And yeah, I'm teaching CISSP since it's been now 14 years, and it was a great journey, and I'm trying to bring similar kind of a content which I did in past on the coffee shots of CISSP. So without wasting a time, let's get started. Before we jump into core part of AI, let's understand what is AI. So AI is actually a technology which is enable the machine to think like a human. As you can see, it's mentioned a machine which think like a human and provide the recommendation or provide us or assist us with the day-to-day activity. So the core capability of AI is learning, reasoning, problem solving, perceptions, and all that. And the best example we can nowadays using is ChatGPT. It actually save our time. You enter the query, you get an output and all that. Now we also have a two type of AI. One is called as a narrow AI and one is called as a general AI. Narrow AI is something we are using today. Like example, as AI which doing a specific function, like Alexa is doing a specific function, ChatGPT you doing an exclusive function, Gemini doing an exclusive function. That is called as a narrow AI. And what we'll see the future is a general AI intelligence, which is think like a human with a similar capacity and all that and provide the recommendation. We are in a still stage of building a general AI, but everywhere what we see is a narrow AI. Okay. Now in the AI, definitely one thing we need to understand is when it comes to AI part. Okay, so let's take example. This is your school. Okay, so you have a class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, and you have reached a 12th class. Let's take example. So when any kid go to the class 1, he learns something in class 1, learn in class 2, 3, 4, 5th. And once he passed the 12th, once he passed the school, he become little bit intelligent. Now this guy will be in the position to answer any kind of a question they will ask from 1 to 12, right? So intelligence was built, but based on the experience. This experience in AI is called as a machine learning. So machine learning is like a neurons. Machine learning is basically like a base on which AI was trained, and AI will provide the answer. Okay, so machine learning is like a way machine learn from data and complex to improve over the time, like human learning from practice. So yes, machine learning is an important part, and data is the most important fuel in AI. That's a very important thing you need to understand. Now the question is, two things are there. One is called as a responsible AI and one is called as a without responsible AI. Let me give you an example. So there is a AI tool. Okay, so you enter the prompt, who is the best person in this world, and he give or AI give the answer about a particular person only. No detailed justification, nothing. Or you said, okay, who is the favorite animal? You always say elephant. So this is not a responsible AI. This is a non-responsible AI where the data is very biased. It basically favor the specific set of candidates, and it lead to the discrimination, lawsuit, and public distrust. But when I say responsible AI is the one who providing me a complete transparency, providing me a complete information, providing me without any biasness, and providing me the relevant information. That is called responsible AI. The question is how you can make a responsible AI. Responsible AI is only possible when you have a strong governance. Strong governance. I'll give an example. Okay, let's take an example of parenting. Parents. Okay, it's all depending upon how the parenting has applied on the kid, and based on that, kid will basically going to react. Let's say example, parenting told the kids that you should lie. You should always say white is the best person, black is the best person. So kid will learn from his parent, and according to that, kid will react. AI is just like a kid. Without governance, the AI will be spoiled. Same like without parenting, the kid will be spoiled. So it is a parenting who educate, who guide, who nurture the kid so he can become a responsible kid. So that kid should never lie, be transparent, be accountable. So that is how it works. That's why I say without governance, AI is just like a spoiled kid. Now here, one thing we need to understand, a very interesting one, is that what is the characteristics of a responsible AI or ethical AI? Because this is very, very important from the CISSP context. The first is that make sure it must be fair. It should not discriminate. That is the most important part we have. Okay, so that's the most important part, which is called as a fairness. Second, we talk about is a very interesting one called as a transparency. Transparency mean if you providing me an information, you're giving a complete justification. What based on what context you provide. Let's say example, you book Uber. Uber is giving me notification there will be a 20 minutes of delay. Is it clear? But what is the reason of 20 minutes of delay? There was a traffic congestions and all. That's called transparency. You notice in DeepSeek and all that, when you search anything, it provides you the relevant source, conclusions, everything. That's a transparency. Okay, one more important thing which is missing here is explainability. Explainability and transparency is the most important requirement in AI governance. Is it clear? So transparency means what is the source. Explainability talk about what was the context based on which it provide the information. If AI generating a wrong information, they're giving accountability. That's why, whenever you search anything in AI, they say it is just AI generated. For more information, consult doctor or something. Your information, AI should maintain in a proper manner. It should not breach the privacy. That is why, whenever you try to upload any kind of a documents and all that, they clearly mention is the data was trained for respective reasons and all that. Make sure do not upload any sensitive information. That's called the maintaining a privacy. They're not revealing any sensitive information. Next, reliable. They're not biased and all that. It providing you the reliable data. And last is called human oversight. When you have such kind of principles, that is called as a ethical AI. And ethical AI is built on a strong AI governance. AI governance means a set of process by which we build the AI in a more responsible manner. So ethical AI ensure AI decisions and actions are responsible, explainable, lawful, unbiased, and subject to the appropriate human oversight. Now in CISSP, if you take example, there are some topics on AI governance that we should know. Okay. So first is called as the AI governance framework. Okay. Which is correlated with CISSP domain security governance, security risk management. What does AI governance mean? Make sure you establish the oversight, accountability, policy for AI system. If you have a policy, then only AI system can perform reliable. So make sure before you adopt any AI system, we should have a governance. Governance means right people, right process, right policies. Second, that when you're building an AI system, it should be comply with the AI parameters. Example, GDPR, EU AI Act, privacy law, and all that. That's a very important part. So if you're preparing for CISSP context and all that, it is very important. You should know EU AI Act. Okay. Third is that if you're building a risk AI system in the organization, you cannot expect from the day one it will produce a reliable result. So make sure we do proper risk assessment. So we identify the risk, assess the risk, treat and monitor the risk to make sure AI produces relevant data. And there is a dedicated framework for that, which is called NIST AI Risk Management Framework. Then make sure AI should produce the right information. We should also educate employees about how to use AI and all that. So we need an AI security policy, but in CISSP context, that policy is called as an AI acceptable use policy, AI usage policy, AI usage policy. It's very important. Okay. So when we say AI usage policy, what is the meaning is how to use AI, what are the approved tools are there. It is one of the most effective control for preventing a shadow AI. Now what is shadow AI? People simply using ChatGPT in their personal phone, they're using Gemini in their phone and all that, which has not been counted in the organization assets. So that is mean it has not been documented but still in use. That's called shadow AI. So by having an AI usage policy, you can bring the clarity about what tools are used, what tools not to be used, what kind of data you can feed in ChatGPT or anything. So that is called as an AI usage policy. By this, you can able to build the awareness. Like in information security, we say security awareness. Here we say AI awareness program we should have, so that it give the clarity to the employees what is allowed, what is not. Then we have a AI ethics, which is basically, when you're building an AI, what are the ethics we need to maintain? It should be fair, it should be transparent, it should be accountable, it should be explainable. And by following this, you focus on the responsible AI. It's very important when you're talking about the requirement of AI supply chain. It's a very important, very critical. Let me explain you how. AI supply chain risk mean that this is the company A. Let's take an example. They are planning to adopt this vendor who providing him AI system. So when we assess the vendor, make sure we should know their transparency, explainability. We should know the data source. In AI, we call it as a data provenance. Data provenance basically mean the source of the data and all that based on which the model was trained. Okay. So what the model has been? The model is the brain of AI, you can say. The model is like, the gain of experience you have. Data set, AI provider. Make sure you do the proper assessment of the vendor before you onboard them. Do let me know in the comment box. You want a special podcast on vendor risk assessment AI specific, I will do that. So we have to check that. Okay. So we have to bring everything in the contract, and as based on that, we will assess the vendor. And the similar way we have a CMMI, capability maturity model, for assessing a process. Same like we have a AI maturity assessment, which starting from 0 to 5. So these are basically stuff we have. Now, how the AI is actually using in SOC, that is also testable. Okay, so let's take example in this scenario. If you can see, it's a very interesting one. Okay. Now, when you talk about AI, especially in domain 7, has literally has automate and reduce the work of the SOC people. Example, it help you to identify the malicious behavior because now the model was trained on the new data sets and all that, which reduce the alert fatigues of the SOC analysts, save their time, and we can able to identify the issue as early as possible. With the introducing of AI, we can able to correlate the alerts better and provide more insights. But lastly, remember one thing, for the critical decision, human oversight is required. By introducing AI in the SOAR, we automate the response. But again, if it's a critical risk and all that, final human oversight is required. Initially, what happened, manually we are analyzing a malware, pattern of malware. With the introducing of AI, we can automate the malware analysis. In UBA, user entity behavior analytics, a tool by which we identify the user pattern. So we create a baseline. Now AI will track based on a baseline and check any deviations are there from the baseline. So we can able to detect abnormal behavior, and we can able to have a faster detection of these activities. So models will be trained on the new attacks and everything, by which we can able to detect the new patterns. Same happen with the fraud detection. By introducing AI, we can able to detect the frauds more faster. Example, if someone doing a transaction of $2,000 every day, one day we have discovered $4,000. So AI will flag this as a suspicious activity. So we will create a baseline again, and then AI monitor based on the baseline. That's a very important part we need to know. So now the question is, when you're building an AI system, this is the AI system you build. Let's take example. Okay, how you're going to build the AI system? Because in AI system, the most important part is model. Okay, model is like a brain. Okay, we need to train the model so that model can provide the output. Okay, so how we can build? So the first step is data collection. So make sure we should classify the data, review the privacy, check the integrity and all that. It's a very important part. So it is easy if we classify. So we have a machine learning, supervise, unsupervised and all that. So if you classify the data properly, it can able to process properly. And it's the most important phase in AI system. Second is, once you collect the data and all that, you check the quality, you look for the poison detections, source of the data. That's very important. So it's very important in this stage, we verify all the errors and everything. That's a very important part. Next is called train the model. So we need to make sure we have a secure environment in which we have to train the model. So remember one thing, model is your intellectual property. It is part of your trade secret. If someone get this model, he got your product. So it's very important to protect this particular model, do the adversarial testing on the model to make sure it provide the right outputs and all that, which we're going to cover in the next part, model testing, where we do bias testing, security testing, validation. But from CISSP context, this is a very important testing, which is called adversarial testing. One thing I missed here is in data collection, make sure we should collect all population of data. If you don't collect all population data, it might lead to the biasness. Example, like you just collecting the data from one particular country. So AI definitely based on that give the answer, or you collecting one particular sex of data. So that ATS will basically, or job selection will be done based on that particular sex only. So make sure you collect the good relevant proportion of data so it can able to provide the right output. But if you want to test the robustness, you want to check the security, sanity of the testing products and all that, we need to perform the adversarial testing, which is like a red teaming. When you deploy, make sure you should have a least privilege logging and monitoring. Then we have operations where we do the continuous monitoring, incident response. The first step in the incident response, detect the incident, respond to incidents. And for the critical activity, human oversight is required. On a regular basis, we need to evaluate whether my AI providing a right output and all that. Otherwise, there will be possibility of drift. So we need to detect those drift. The drift is basically mean AI is not providing me the right output. And it has a multiple reason, when data got old or data get poisoned or model unable to interpret. So drift detection is very important. And when the business process, the asset is not in use, we can simply retire. So this is a very important part of our AI lifecycle, which is very important for you to know that. Okay, so we're going to discuss some of the section in detail. Okay, so let's start with the first coffee shot, which is very, very important here. Okay, interesting question. A team is building a model that will publish a customer behavior trends for business user. Fine. The CISO want the result to remain useful for analytics, but reduce the chance that one customer participation can be inferred from the model output. Infer basically mean correlate and link back to the user. Which of the following is the best privacy preserving approach we can use? Fine. Before I jump into the options, I want to discuss one table here. See, in AI models, when we train data, we use two things. One is called as a federated learning, and one is called as a differential privacy. Let's take an example. Actually, if you see future in India, the banking is going to use federated learning. Why? Let's say example, this is the branch 1. We have a branch 2. We have a branch 3. And we have a branch 4. Listen carefully, okay? So model will be trained locally. And whatever the final variables are there, we send to the centralized. So this is called as a federated learning, where the train AI model without moving raw data to the central location. So data stay local, model update are shared, protect against data location exposure. Is it clear? Only concern is that if this is compromised, everything is compromised. So that is basically called as a federated learning. Differential privacy, what happen is, let's say example, Prabh, salary. Okay, KK, salary, Prashant, salary. So I want to train the model on the salary behavior. So instead of adding this entire information, I will remove the KK, Prabh and Prashant and add some noise into that. And then I add this data into the model. So by this, what happen is model will not be trained with PI information. No one can able to link back. So that is basically called as a differential privacy, where we adding a noise to make a confusion. So by this way, it is difficult for someone to extract all the information about the person. So instead of having a name, we replace with patient ID. We're adding some noise into that. So in worst case, if any hacker using some prompt injections and all that and try to extract, the data value is nothing. So it is basically reduce the privacy leakage risk, and it reduce the risk of model inversion. What is model inversion? In my next coffee shot, I'm going to discuss that. So federated learning mean local trained and then push the variable. Differential privacy, when you train the model, you basically adding a noise by which you balance the privacy and usability. Now the question say here is CISO want the result to remain useful for analytic, but reduce the chance that one customer participant can be inferred from the model output. Okay, so option A, federated learning. Federated learning is the decentralized approach. It is closed, but it only help to train the model without centralizing raw data. It does not by itself prevent the inference from the final output, because by end of the day, we're sending a variables. So A is eliminated. B, differential privacy, which is a very closed, because it is the best answer, designed to allow useful statistical analysis. Because keyword they say, they want the analytics to be done. So it means they need a data pointer. So they're adding a noise, and by that they can able to balance both. Is it clear? So it allow the useful statistical analysis, while limiting which can be inferred about any individual presence or contribution in the data sets. Third is called data masking. Even you mask the data. Let's say example, you mask. What if we're using advanced tool to aggregate the output? That is possible. In pseudonymization, we replace the identifiers, but individuals still be inferred through the patterns, attributes, or model behavior. So the key phrase is basically one customer participation can be inferred from the model output, and that's point to a differential privacy. That's the reason answer is B for beta, because in the thin line difference between the differential privacy and pseudonymization, differential privacy, we add more noise. In pseudonymization, we're just replacing the identifier. So still with the pattern of profile, we can able to aggregate the output. That's the reason answer is basically B for beta. B for beta, exactly. B for beta, differential privacy. Okay, let's move to the next question. Interesting question. Organizations developing an AI model to support customer eligibility decision. Fine. The AI governance lead is concerned that model may produce unfair outcome. Which of the following control would best reduce the risk? Okay. Option A, using diverse. Okay, let me put all the options. You can pause the video and review the options. First, using a diverse and represent data source to ensure AI model is trained on data that reflect different customer group and real world. Definitely it can reduce the risk. Applying cryptography hash function to verify the AI training data sets have not been altered, corrupted, storage or transfer. Okay, see, if you take the context of B, okay, this actually helped to compare the records across system, like missing record, duplicate entries, inconsistent value. Okay, this improved the data accuracy, consistency, but it does not, because it does not necessarily make the data sets, representative for different customer group. Even you have a one set of data and all that, you cannot get that visibility. Third is regular general hashing. General hashing and all that, reconciliations is another important part we have. And the fourth is basically called as a implement strong access control technique to restrict the unauthorized user from viewing. That is basically more from the confidentiality perspective. If you want unbiased, if you want a fair outcome, make sure you should have a population of all the type of data. Then only you can able to take a decision. Let me give you an example. So I'm building a ATS base or recruitment AI tool, where basically used for finding a candidate and all that. Now, what if I train the model only based on male candidates? So it will basically provide the answers based on a male experience and all that. Understood? So if you have a different source of data, then only it can able to provide the right outcome. So this is the important thing you need to remember when you're preparing for a certification. Any question talking about preventing an unfair outcome and all that, the best answer is you need to have a diverse data sets. If you have a diverse data sets, it will be great. Because if you see B, just having a hash does not providing you the unfair outcome. What if we only have one source of data? Regular reconciliation is only for correlation. So only option is basically required is we need a representative different type of data. Then only the AI can basically provide the right outcome. So let's move to the next coffee shot. Thank you. Interesting question. Organization has deployed AI-enabled system that support business decisions making and security operation. CISO want to ensure the emerging AI-related risks such as model drift, abnormal behavior, misuse indicators, and control degradation are continuously identified and escalate through a SOC and risk management process. Fine. Which of the following is the most important course of action when implementing continuous monitoring and reporting for AI system? Okay, so what does the question say? They want to ensure that they can, whatever the emerging risk we have, like model drift, abnormal behaviors, we want to continuously identify. And they're saying what is the most important action you will take for a continuous monitoring. Option A, configure automatic alert for predefined risk threshold breaches so that SOC can detect exceptions, triage events, escalate materials deviations from an acceptable risk level. See, if you can see A, this is very important for a SOC operations. But alerting, depending on having a properly defined monitor KRI is a first. An alert system only tells the SOC when threshold is crossed. It does not by itself define what should be measured, why it is matter, and how AI risk should be monitored. It is an operational response mechanism, not a foundation. because we're defining a metrics here. Option B, develop a, a standardized AI risk reporting template for executive, technical compliance, operations stakeholder to ensure consistent communication of monitoring results. See, report template helps to communicate risk to different stakeholders, SOC, CISO, and all that. However, the template only has structured information. They do not guarantee reliable risk visibility unless the continuous monitoring is already in place. So reporting format is secondary to monitoring, which is the right risk indicator. Option C, implement continuous monitoring for a key risk indicators for AI systems so that changes in the model behavior, performance, security, posture, and control effectiveness are identified in timely manner, which makes sense because questions say most. We have to select that which cover others, right? So from a CISSP governance and SOC perspective, foundation is to first monitor the right risk indicator. Without KRI, alert, dashboard, it may look mature, but it not measure the actual risk exposure. So it's very important. You need to build the foundation. So that foundation is implement the continuous monitor, KRI for all the AI system, and we look to identify in a timely manner. So after C only, we can have a and all that. Option D, deploy centralized AI risk register dashboard to visualize trend, open issue, incident remediation status for management to oversight and governance reporting. See, dashboard is useful for visualizing all the AI over the time, but it is only as good as underlying the metrics and KRI feeding into it. So dashboard may show the trends, incident, but it does not replace the continuous monitor. It is more about visualization governance, not a core monitoring. So that is the reason answer is C for Charlie. Give me a second. Yeah, C for Charlie. Implementing continuous monitor with KRI, which can able to track the things and all that. Let's move to the next coffee shot. Thank you. Okay, interesting question. Organization is adopting generative AI to create customer facing summaries and internal business recommendation. Keyword is recommendation and summary. Which of the following represent the most significant ethical risk? Option A, AI system may generate bias output if training data does not adequately represent affected stakeholder group. But bias is a valid concern, but scenario is focused more on user depending upon recommendations and all that. Okay, that point more directly talk about something else. Option B, AI system may produce inaccurate or fabricated content that user mistakenly treat as a reliable information. Definitely. Because generative AI can create a content that sound credible, but sometimes it is inaccurate, misleading, or fabricated. And this create ethical concern because some people may make business, legal, operation decisions based on the unreliable information. In CISSP term, this is mainly an integrity and trustworthiness issue. Option C, AI system may become unavailable during a peak usage, disrupting business process depending upon AI services. Availability is a security and operation concern, but it is not a strongest ethical concern in the scenario. AI system may expose confidential information through prompts, logs, response, but question is talking about more on recommendation, and D is talking about more like a confidentiality. So in this scenario, the answer is B make more sense because we're looking for recommendation, giving a summary and all that. That's the reason answer is B for beta. Exactly, B for beta. Let's move to the next question. Thank you. Okay, next question is organization is preparing to deploy new AI-enabled business system. Fine. The security manager defined the frequency. Remember one thing, frequency of monitoring, escalation thresholds, and reporting trigger needed to ensure AI-related risk remain within an acceptable limit. Okay, which of the following is the most important factor in determining the required level of monitoring activity, not fixed? Okay, so option A, organization approve risk appetite, which provide broad guidance on the amount and type of risk the business is willing to accept. Okay, why A is very close but not the best? Let me explain you why. So let's say example, organization has a low appetite. Organization has a low appetite for a privacy violation. Okay, for a customer facing AI system. Now this is important, but it does not by itself defining a monitoring level. So we define the thing is for privacy KRI. Okay, we must escalate within 24 hours. Model accuracy, let's say example, should not go beyond 5%. Okay, bias variance should not be. So this is where we introducing a variation value. Then only we can able to track. Okay, question say most important factor, just having a fixed matrix. Just having a fixed matrix does not give any value. We need a variables here. That is reason answer A is eliminated. Option A is eliminated. Option B, number of user who will access the AI system, which may affect the operation scales, but does not define the acceptable risk threshold. See, number of user may affect logging volume, access review, capacity planning, and operation support, but large user base does not automatically mean it's a high risk monitoring. Is it clear? So B is removed. C, organization define risk tolerance, which establish the acceptable variation from risk appetite, help determine the monitoring threshold, which makes sense. And D, compensating control implemented for AI system, which may reduce specific risk but does not define when risk to be escalated. See, compensation control reduces specific risk. It's not feasible. They may influence residual risk, but they do not define the organization acceptable limit. And that is the reason we're going with the answer yes, C for Charlie. Why? Because when we're talking about variables, variables come from a risk tolerance. Risk tolerance, why? Because monitoring need a practical threshold. How much model drift is acceptable, what error required escalation, what privacy risk score is unacceptable, and how often the output is coming. So how often should KRI be reviewed? So these are not only broad risk appetite decision, they are the risk tolerance decision. That's the reason answer is basically C for Charlie. Okay, let's move to the next question. Organization is documenting a machine learning model before approving it for business use. Okay. The data owner want a stakeholder to understand model intended purpose, limitation, performance characteristics, ethical consideration, and appropriate use condition. Which are the following artifacts would best support transparency and enhance the stakeholder trust? So here the scope is they want artifacts which can build the transparency and stakeholder trust. Option A, documented set of model hyperparameter that define the configuration value during a model training, such as learning rate, model depth, and organization setting. It is actually important, to be frank. Okay, it is important. But when we're taking example of the context and everything, overall, hyperparameter is used for technical reproducibility and for model tuning. They are mainly useful for data scientists and ML engineers. They do not usually provide the business stakeholder with a clear understanding of model purpose, limitation, risk. It is too technical and it narrows the stakeholder trust. So A is eliminated. B, document set of data quality controls that validate the completeness, accuracy, consistency, suitability for data. See, data quality control are important because poor data quality can affect the model accuracy. But here we're talking about document. They document only one part of model trust, which is called quality and suitability of data. They do not fully explain the model intended use, limitations, and all that. So it is an important supporting evidence, but does not a best trust enhancing artifacts. Option C, model card. A model card that summarizes the model purpose, intended use, limitations, performance, evaluation result, responsible use considerations. See, model card is the best artifact for enhancing a stakeholder trust because it provides understandable documentation about ML model, which is used, where it may fail, and what limitation is basically required. So that's the reason answer is basically C. Now, why not D? Model prototype record the document early design, iterations, experimental assumptions, proof of concept result before production deployment. C, model record may help in documenting experimentation. However, the prototype documentation does not necessarily explain the approved model final versions and all that. So model card is very important because it provides the visibility about the type of model we have. And that's the reason answer is basically C for Charlie. Let's move to the next question. Okay, organization is acquiring a AI-enabled application from a third-party vendor. Fine. The security manager must ensure the vendor continue to meet the organization security, privacy, and responsible use requirement throughout the contract period. Which of the following, I repeat, which of the following provide the best ongoing assurance? Option A, requiring the vendor to provide the periodic compliance report, model performance summary, and evidence of adherence to agreed security and responsible use requirement. It makes sense, but you know what is the catch here? You know what is the catch? Vendor reports. Okay, require vendor to provide periodic compliance report. he providing. Model performance, there is a possibility of the biasness. Option B, one more important thing, vendor evidence can support assurance but does not replace the assurance actually completely. Okay, support is there. So option B, conduct the scheduled vendor assurance review, make that validate the security control, validate development practice, testing evidence, and compliance with the contractual obligation, which is closed. Okay, because it provides the active evidence-based oversight of the vendor throughout the contract, and it also validate whether the vendor is actually meeting a security privacy requirement. Okay, so B we can close. Okay, A is basically say require the vendor to provide. Okay, so vendor report the model summaries and all that. They are still largely vendor provided artifacts. That's the reason we have eliminated A, and still I will go with the B as a close. Option C, require the vendor to submit the source code, model documentations, data flow diagram and review before each major production release. C is useful for technical due diligence, especially in the case of AI system acquisition. However, source code, model documentations, data flow diagram mainly support the design and technical review. They do not fully confirm whether it is the ongoing control effectiveness, privacy compliance and all that. So C is too technical. Establishing a contract clause requiring vendor to notify the organization of significant security, privacy or AI governance exceptions. So D is necessary but not sufficient, because contractual clauses are important because they establish a vendor obligation, but clause alone do not prove the vendor is following them. That is the reason we follow one statement is writing. It does not mean happen. Go look and verify. To establish D, we need to do the B. That's the reason answer is B for beta. Okay, so let's go with the next question. Another interesting question. Organization adopting a third-party foundation model and plan to fine-tune it using an internal data before production deployment. Fine. They have not deployed yet. The security manager wants an artifact that support the supply chain visibility. This time supply chain visibility. Provenance. Provenance means source of data and all that. Dependency, tracking, lifecycle accountability for future updates, retirement and compliance. Which of the following would best meet this objective? Option A, maintain a model card that describe approved use case, limitations, evaluation results, expected model behavior, which is actually true. Okay, it is actually true. But when we're talking about A, model card is improve the transparency by explaining a model purpose, limitation. However, it does not provide the full component level inventory of lineage, training data, provenance. It only talk about model. We're going to show you how it works. So if you can see here, thin line difference in model card and AI bomb. Model card talk about how should we use a model safely. Okay, it's talk about the model description, but AI bomb is what is inside the overall AI system, where it coming from, what is the data and all that. Okay, so model card only talk about model description, but overall AI system and AI functions and all that captured in AI bomb, which is just like as bomb. Option A actually talking about model card, but the question is not talking model card. They're saying that third party foundation model and plan to fine tune it. They want a supply chain visibility, model provenance. Model provenance we can achieve with model card only, but not dependency, life cycle accountability. So they're looking for that. So option B, maintain a data inventory that classify data set by sensitivity, ownership, retention period. B makes sense, but B is more about data governance. Okay, B is more about data classification register. It does not document full AI system composition. Option C, maintaining AI software bill of material that record model lineage, training, data provenance, fine-tuning history, dependency, AI asset lifecycle, which actually makes sense. Option D, maintaining a risk register that record AI threats, control gaps, treatment decisions, residual risk acceptance. See, model risk assessment identify AI related risk and record control. It does not primarily designed to document the AI asset component inventory, provenance and all that. It only evaluate risk. So only close option in this case is answer is C for Charlie. Maintaining the AI software bill of material that record the model trainage, data governance, fine-tuning histories and all that. That's the reason answer is C for Charlie, because model card talk about how should we use this model, but AI bomb talk about what is inside the AI system. So let's move to the next coffee shot. Thank you. Interesting question. Organization is considering black box. Black box basically mean when you have no visibility how the model was trained and all that. It is just through the output. Support the incident prioritization, customer impact decision. The vendor can provide output score, okay, but cannot provide sufficient evidence of model validation, explainability, accountability for incorrect recommendation. Which of the following is the greatest concern? Fine. Option A, organization may be unable to demonstrate AI support decisions are reliable, explain subject to appropriate governance oversight. Makes sense. Option B, organization may need to update its incident response procedure to include AI generated alert, but that is more about AI incident. Option C, organization may need to classify AI model related data asset as a critical information asset, but that is only for visibility. It is not dealing with the outcome of this concern. Option D, organization may require to establish additional monitoring for model drift, output quality, performance degradation. But we don't have a complete control, because D is a strong detector because it's talking on monitoring drift performance. Okay, it does not solve the core issue of lack of transparency, validation, evidence, and accountability. The biggest concern here is basically unable to justify how the content was generated. And that's the reason answer is A for alpha. Okay, let's move to the next question. Very interesting question. AI enabled fraud detection is updated using a recent transaction activity. Fine. After deployment, security team observed that certain fraudulent transactions are consistently classified as legitimate even though similar activity was previously detected. Which of the following attack is most likely occurring? Option A, model inversion attack, model poisoning attack, membership inference attack, prompt injection attack. Before I discussed about these options, I want to discuss first about model inversion attack and model poisoning attack, because it is very, very important for the exam and also very important for your syllabus. So I have a table here, okay, which is called as a bytes, which can be used as snacks. Okay, so first is what is model inversion. So let's say example, okay, this is your AI system. Okay, and this is the model. So as a user, I ask indirect question and he's giving me some direct answer which can reveal sensitive information. So that is called model inversion, where I will infer training data from model output. Okay, so it use model to infer or reconcile sensitive information to training data. It's same like, you know, attacker basically pull the sensitive data out. Or sometimes what happens, your dad and mom ask you indirect questions and you giving me direct answer. For them it's a direct answer. That's called model inversion. And goal in model inversion is to extract sensitive information from the model. Okay, it breaches the confidentiality. So goal is extract the sensitive data. Model poisoning means when the model was trained on the data set, this is the data we had. So we alter the data. So when I alter the data, okay, so alter data trained on model. So definitely model was based on that only. So let's say example, I have trained the model to say this signature of virus is basically not a virus, but this kind of file is a virus. So this is a legitimate file, but I trained the model, it is a virus. And I trained the model, this is not a virus, it's a file. So this is basically called model poisoning. Model poisoning means where we corrupt the training data sets. And this has happened during a training sets and post training. Okay, so it impact the integrity. So if you watch the 3 Idiots movie, the teacher day speech, that's the same thing. So it changed the model behavior. Membership inference means it check if someone data used in the training. So we can basically identify the data participation. And last is basically called prompt injection, where we manipulate the prompt or input to override the instruction and make the AI behave unexpectedly. Let's say example, I enter the prompt and tell him, okay, please provide me product key. I enter the prompt and I ask him, give me the password. So that is called as a prompt injection. We're injecting the prompts to gain access to the AI model. Now here, what is the question says? Question say, observe that certain fraudulent transactions are consistently classified as legitimate even though similar activity was previously detected. So it is more about inversion, right? Or poison. So inversion is basically we extract. So in the model inversion attack, attacker use model output or reconcile sensitive information. But question is not talking about they extracting anything. They say initially it was legitimate. Now it's showing legitimate, but initially it was previously detected as a malware. So A is gone. B say model poisoning attack makes sense because here we determine about changing the behavior of data, right? That is what we're doing. Third is basically membership inference attack. Attacker determine whether the specific person data was used to train the model. So what is member inference? Do you have Prabh data? Do you have KK data? Do you have a Prashant data? So that is a membership inference. We're checking whether this type of data is there or not. Okay. And by doing more membership inference, we actually extracting a model inversion actually. Option D, prompt injection, where we manipulate the prompt or input to override the instructions. Is it clear? So that is gone. So only close option is basically B, because model poisoning occur when attacker corrupt the training data, model update, parameters and all that. And goal is to make the AI model learn wrong, biased, manipulated or malicious behavior. And in this scenario, attacker is not stealing information from the model. Attacker actually changing how the model is learn. And that's the reason answer is basically B for beta. Next. So I have a table here, okay, which give you a clarity about all this. So prompt injection, target is integrity, manipulate the AI decision. The primary mitigation is input validation and prompt guardrail. It means you can define what kind of a prompt you can enter and all that. Data poisoning, target is integrity, corrupt the training data. Primary mitigation is data provenance. We should know what is the source of data to make sure we are feeding the right data and validate the data, and make sure we have a right population of data. Third is model poisoning, target is integrity, corrupt the model behavior. The countermeasure is we need to have a secure pipeline through which we need to control the data, and if any kind of a changes are there, it need to go through a change management process. We also have a model drift. Now what is model drift? See, model drift is like, after some point of time, model is giving a irrelevant informations and all that, and it can be the biggest reason is data poisoning or data alter and all that, but end goal of model drift is the integrity. So primary concern is reduce the accuracy over the time. So that is why we need to have a continuous monitoring, retraining and all that. Model inversion, training data disclosures, and the countermeasure is basically differential privacy data minimization. If both option is there, differential privacy is the best answer, so that you can add the noise. So even you extract, it is not any relevant information. Model extraction mean extract the model formula. What is a model formula and all that. So that's why today models are like a trade secret for any organization. So it actually breaches the confidentiality on all that. So primary concern is model theft. So rate limiting, API access control and watermarking is the best answer. Data leakage of sensitive information. So make sure you should have a classification, DLP and all that. Hallucination mean when model is basically doing incorrect decision. So make sure any kind of a critical decisions we have, always remember human validation based on risk assessment and verify the source. Adversarial attack is basically where entering a malicious queries and all that. And the goal of doing this is to harden the model and all that. And shadow AI is the biggest concern. It means undocumented AI we have. The most effective countermeasure is AI governance policy, AI usage policy and awareness training. So that's something we have to consider. Let's move to the next question. Organization use a AI-enabled fraud detection system to score a customer transaction. Fine. During a testing, security analysts find that repeated queries to the model can reveal sensitive pattern about the data used to train it, including characteristics, customer transactions, records and all that. Which of the following attack is most likely occur? Option A, model inversion attack. Definitely, because we infer the sensitive information about training data by analyzing a model output. Model poisoning, question is not talking about changing the model behavior. Membership inference attack, we are not adding some information to predict the output. And prompt injection, we are not manipulating a model response. Because the questions say repeated query to the model to reveal sensitive pattern, that's the reason answer is A for alpha. Model inversion attack, A for alpha. Let's move to the next question. Organization use AI-enable fraud detection system to score a customer transaction. Fine. During testing, security analysts discovered that repeated queries to the model may allow an attacker to determine whether specific customer transaction record was included in the database. Which of the following attacks most likely occur? So here they say allow the attacker specific. So we're doing a guess. Prabh data is there, Prashant data is there and all that. Inversion, we are extracting the correlation information. So A is gone. Model poisoning, we alter. Okay. Prompt injection, we bypass. The only option left is membership inference attack. That's the reason answer is C for Charlie. Organization use AI model to generate risk score. Fine. From a sensitive customer record. Okay, understood. During a privacy review, the team determined that repeated access to model output, repeated, allow unauthorized user to learn more about individuals in the underlying dataset than intended. Okay, he get more information. Which of the following is the most effective? It means this is the model we have, and he targeting more and more data into that, so that he get a pattern. So which of the following is the most effective countermeasure? Option A, apply differential privacy technique, where when you train the model, you basically remove the identifier, add some noise into that. So even they cannot able to find the pattern. We can most effective. Option B, encrypting training data set. See, if you encrypt the data and then you train the model will not able to learn anything in that. And in that case, there is a possibility it can be biasness. Option C, limiting the precision of model output by suppressing details, confidence score, returning only generalized results. But we cannot predict. C is closed and it reduces some of the output detailing, but it does not provide the same formal privacy protection. D, monitoring, restricting repeated query pattern. It is more like a detective in nature. Is it clear? So the only close option is we can add a noise. So even they're repeatedly entering the queries and all that, they don't get the detailed information. That's the reason answer is A for alpha. So always in one thing, the most effective countermeasure for model inversion attack is a differential privacy technique. Is it clear? Now we move to the next question. During an enterprise has recently enabled AI-driven identity analytics, very interesting keyword, identity analytics for its cloud application. During a review of an account takeover incident, the security manager notes that several login used valid credentials but display unusual user behavior compared with the established access baseline. Okay, fine. Which of the following is the best control to reduce the risk? Here, they're doing a multiple pattern. We want to prevent that. Option A, enforce multi-factor authentication for all users through centralized identity provider. See, this option look great, but strong control, but still it is static in nature. It does not adjust based on the abnormal behavior, because by end of the day, it's a legitimate user. Option B, apply risk-based authentication decision using AI-derived behavioral signal and session context, which is actually closed, because in this case, the scenario already said the valid account credential. Second is unusual user behavior. Okay. Third, so here the behavior was compared with the established access baseline. And third part is AI-driven analytics. So that is a point where we can have a risk base, which is also called as a adaptive. Another name of risk base is called adaptive. It's a new concept in AI, adaptive authentication. Okay. So we use the risk base or adaptive authentication using a behavior analytics, because that is the best control used to for the AI driven behavioral signal. Because in this case, we can allow the login, required step authentication, challenge with MFA, block the session, wherever we feel it is escalated. Is it clear? Now C, implement the role-based access control to align the application permission with, see, again, it's a strong control, but it does not adjust according to the abnormal behavior. Option D, required privileged access management for all administrator access. That is actually backfire, because the content talking about unusual activities. So we need a risk-based AI-driven function. That's the reason answer is basically B for beta. Organization establishing an enterprise AI governance program. Fine. Executive management want a senior role to lead the overall AI adoption, AI strategy across business unit, oversee the AI governance activity, and more important, report AI related progress and risk to the executive leadership. Which of the following role is most likely responsible for this function? Okay. See, CISO is responsible for cyber. Okay. Chief Data Officer lead the data strategy. Chief AI Officer lead the AI program, which is closed. Ethic Officer focus on the AI fairness. Okay. Ethical concern. Okay. But does not usually lead the full AI adoption strategy. So the close option is basically AI officer. I will tell you one thing. There is also one governance committee we called as a governance committee, which is called as a AI governance committee. The committee is a team of, you can say, all the representatives. They can have a representative from CISO. They can have a representative from the CAIO. We can also have a chief data officer, privacy officer, which can jointly work together for the AI initiative. But here, the specific role who does end-to-end function is CAIO. He is the one who overall look for the AI adoptions, enterprise AI strategy, coordinate with the cross business unit, oversight the governance, and map all the business outcomes. So that's the reason answer is C for Charlie. Let's move to the next question. Another interesting question. Organization is preparing to deploy AI-enabled capability across business analytics, customer support, security operation. 3 sections are there, fine. The information security manager must ensure AI deployment, support business objective, okay, protect customer sensitive information assets, and monitor effectively, but after the implementation. Keyword. Which of the following is the best course of action? Option A, establish the AI governance and security review process, fine. Validate business alignment, data classification, access control, logging, and operation oversight before deployment, okay. A is the most complete answer, look like, because it captures 3 things. Business alignment is there to support the business objective. Asset protection is there. Sensitive information is classified, protect, and operation monitoring is there. AI can be logged. Option B, require the security operations center to monitor AI system alert after deployment and escalate the suspicious activity based on the predefined incident response procedure. That is basically more on from the incident management. This is important, but it is too narrow. It focuses on starting after deployment. It does not address the business alignment, sensitive data protection before AI is implemented. Option C, establish AI governance review process, fine. That validate business alignment, fine. Technology standard, fine. Stakeholder approval before deployment. This is true, but it does not clearly define the data classification, access control, logging, and operation oversight. Option D, establish the AI security review process, valid data classification, access control, security monitoring before deployment. Again, D does not address the business alignment, governance, and broader operations risk oversight. Even A is wrong because they said before deployment, but that is more relevant to the question because the information security manager ensure AI deployment support the business objective that we can validate with the help of business alignment. They want a protect sensitive data that is achieved with the help of data classification requirement, and they want a monitoring, so we have access control, logging, and everything. So that is why the close answer in this case is A for alpha. Let's move to the next question. Before releasing AI model into the production, fine, the security team perform validation, bias testing, adversarial testing, okay, to confirm model behave as expected. Which AI lifecycle is being addressed? So let's go back to the AI system. Data collection, preparation, model training, model testing. Model testing include bias testing, security testing, validations, and all that, if you can see here. And the question also talking about similar thing. Okay, they want perform validation, bias testing, adversarial testing. See, validation is to check whether input is working fine. Bias testing ensure accuracy and model drift. Adversarial security testing is the most robust testing. So any question talking about most robust testing, validating the model behavior, we can achieve with the help of adversarial security testing because we're doing a red teaming here. So data preparation will not be the right stage because there we classify the data and all that. Operation we already deployed, retirement when it's not in use. The only close option we have is model testing, which include all the activity. That's the reason answer is B for beta. Next question. Enterprise discover that several business teams are using a public generative AI tool to summarize customer records. That is a scope, and draft client response, analyze the internal reports without security, privacy, or legal review. That's a problem. Which of the following is the most effective countermeasure to reduce the risk? What we need to reduce the risk? They discovering several business teams using public. So we need to mitigate the risk of using this generative AI tool. We need to prevent them from using this tool. Okay. Option A, block access to public generative AI service at the network perimeter until each service has been reviewed by security team. It's really good, great, but this may reduce immediate risk, but it may mainly a technical restriction. It does not create a sustainable AI adoptions and approval process. Option B, establish an enterprise AI governance process, required approved AI tool, acceptable use requirement, data handling, and security review before adoption. This look great. This is a complete scenario shadow AI. So problem is not about data leak. The bigger issue is AI tool without approval, visibility, ownership. So create a AI policy, create AI governance, integrate everything in that. Any kind of a changes in the organization need to go through one centralized process. Option C, publish a AI acceptable use standard that define approved data type. User responsibility C is already part of B. Implement technical monitoring DLP control to identify and approve AI usage. Okay, this look good. This is also close because DLP detect unapproved usage, prevent sensitive data leakage, but shadow AI also include the vendor risk, legal risk and all that. So D already part of the B. That's the reason answer is B for beta. Let's move to the next question. An organization is using a generative AI to create a marketing content, fine. Design the concept, fine. Writing material, fine. The legal and security team are concerned about whether resulting output can be protected under the copyright and who may claim right over them. Which of the following is the intellectual property issue present the greatest challenge here? They say marketing content creating, writing material, team are concerned about whether resulting output can be protected under copyright. So which of the following is the issue? Option A, protecting brand name, logo, service mark as AI enabled product. See, it is easy to identify. A is more related to the trademark, not a copyright. Okay. And once you register trademark, it is easy to figure out who own that. Option B, determining whether ownership rights are applied to content created with the sustainable AI involvement. Because the main copyright challenge is AI generated contents determine whether output is eligible for copyright protection and who, if anyone, own it. Option C, maintain the confidentiality over the proprietary AI models, training methods, and internal algorithm. That's more about trade secrets. AI models are called as a trade secret, which is already there. But the concern is all about here is writing material. Option D, creating a license term for commercial use and distribution of AI generated material. D is related to the licensing. And licensing depends on first knowing whether it is protectable ownership right exists or not. That's the reason answer is B for beta. The biggest concern is basically to identify who is the author. Let's move to the next question. Organization is deploying a generative AI system that will interact directly with the customer and provide personalized responses, fine. The privacy officer want to ensure users understand when AI is being used. He want to understand, okay, and how their information may be processed, what choice they have been before engaging with the system. It means they want to know how the model is providing me output. Which of the following factor is the most important for preserving a user confidence? Option A, minimizing a bias in the AI output by regularly testing the system for unfair or inconsistent treatment. It look great, to be frank, but by how can we predict that minimize bias? That is also concern here. Option B, provide user notice that describe AI system purpose, data handling practice and limitation, but does not require we need a user consent also. That's not possible because user notice about the transparency. However, it lacked the explicit informed consent. So the user may be informed. Option C, providing transparent disclosure, obtaining informed consent. So user understand AI involvement, data use, limitation and available choice. C actually is the strongest answer because it includes both. It includes the transparency disclosure, which basically user know how the AI is involved and how the data will be there, and user are given a meaningful choice. Option D, publish a general AI usage policy that explain the organization responsible AI principle, customer communication standard. D is also close because responsible AI support the trust. However, policy is less direct than clear disclosure. So only option which is close is C because C cover both consent also, and second part is transparency. Remember one thing, transparency and explainability is the most important component when you onboard AI product, because by that you get a culture about their AI systems and all that. So answer is basically C. Let's move to the next question. An organization preparing to approve AI-enabled fraud detection model for production use, fine. Before release, the security team perform additional testing to determine whether the model can maintain reliable decisions when exposed to abnormal hostile conditions. It means when you enter some abnormal query, how the model can reply. Which of the following is a primary purpose of testing? Option A, determine whether, actually question talking about like if you do adversarial testing, adding some invalid values, how they're going to handle. So what is the purpose of doing this? Option A, determine whether model can resist adversarial techniques. intended to influence decision, which is true. Option B, to improve the model by additional attack like examples into training process before deployment, but question is the model is already deployed. Option C, verify the dataset used of the model, classify, retain according to the policy, but policy is the directive in nature. Option D, to document the model intended use, limitation, performance, characteristic for stakeholder. That is more from the AI model governance. So answer is basically A, because we will get to know what is passed, what is not. Indirectly, we're doing a adversarial testing, which is the most robustful testing we have. That's the reason answer is A for alpha. Let's move to the next question. Interesting question. Enterprise SOC, Security Operations Center, is overwhelmed by the alert from endpoint, networks, cloud, and identity system. Fine. The Security Operation Manager want a capability that can enrich alerts with threat intels, asset criticality, ownership, and historical incident context before routing them for automated actions or analyst review. Which of the following best support this objective? The question they were talking about, they want a capability that can enrich the alerts, enhance the alert with threat intel. And their concern is they're overwhelmed by the alerts and all this. So they're looking for a solution to address this. Option A, integrate the AI assist alert enrichment and classification to SOAR, because so by adding a AI with the SOAR, we can able to automate the alerts and everything that can be possible. Option B, integrate AI assist correlation rule into SIM to identify related events and generate high fidelity alerts for analyst review. Again, it will increase the task. SIM correlation improve alert quality, but SIM mainly focus on collecting, correlating. It does not fully handle the orchestration, automate routing, and response workflow like a SOAR. Option C, using AI assist case management to group related alerts, assigning incidents, ownership, track response through the closure. That is also true. Okay, but it comes mainly after the alerts are already classified. It does not truly perform enrichment. Option D, deploy AI assist threat intel enrichment to add indicators, attack technique, reputation data to incoming security alert. It is close, but it covers only one part of workflow. It does not cover the full address, asset criticality, ownerships, historical context and all. That's the reason answer is A for alpha. Okay. Organization plan to deploy AI system in the European Union that may affect individual access to employment, credit, essential service. The compliance manager wants to determine whether their system falls into legally defined risk category and what mandatory obligations apply before use. Which of the following would be best support this determination? Option A, EU AI Act, risk classification, regulatory compliance requirement, which actually makes sense. Because in Europe, it is a regulatory requirement. If you're building an AI system and if it's going to be used by AI, EU users and all that, this is basically applicable. And EU AI Act is the first competitive legal framework on AI system to ensure AI is safe, transparent, and more important, respect the fundamental rights of European Union. Is it clear? And they classify the AI system into 4 risk tiers. So any question talking about 4 risk tiers, EU, then remember the answer is basically EU AI Act. So if you are a company into AI solution and selling an AI solution to European Union, you need to be comply with EU AI Act regulation. So they have a 4 category of risk level. The first is called as a unacceptable risk. Second is called as a high risk. Third is actually called as a, so one is called as an unacceptable risk. Second is called as a high risk. Third is called as a limited risk. And fourth is called as a minimal risk. Okay. So that something is there. And the question is actually talking about the area of European Union. So yeah, makes sense. But the second section is called as a ISO 4201 AI system. So if you're looking for a standard of AI governance and all that, we have a standard called 4201. Same like we have information security governance 27001. So ISO 4201 talk about and establish the AI management system, governance, role control, continuous improvement, but it does not determine legal risk. Option C, NIST AI risk management framework. Again, it is evaluate the AI risk such as viability, reliability, safety, security, privacy, and all that. And D is basically part of the C only, but it is a framework not for identifying trustworthiness. It is a wrong statement. So D is part of a C. Overall, the statement which is mentioned, NIST risk AI risk management framework guiding for identifying trustworthiness, that's one of the function of govern. So only close option is basically A for alpha. Let's go by the next question. An organization is adopting an AI enabled system across customer service, analytics, and security operations. Senior leadership want to shape how employee select, use, monitor, escalate AI risks so that AI adoption support the organization mission, value, business objective, and acceptable risk level. Which of the following statement best describe the role of governing authority in this effort? So they want to control the behavior. Option A, governing authority directly configure AI system. Access control, logging rules, monitoring dashboard, incident response. No, they cannot configure. Option B, governing authority determine overarching policies. Makes sense. Directing the organization mission goals. Makes sense. Value, culture, risk, because they are the one who direct. Option C, governing authority perform daily AI model testing, approve models. No. Option D, governing authority select AI model for each department and independently validate every AI generated business decision. No. Answer is basically B. The core goal of governing committee is to oversight, and that's the reason answer is B for beta, because they define the acceptable, unacceptable AI use. They set the risk appetite tolerance. They set the ethical responsible use principle. This helped to create a strong AI risk culture. Is it clear? That's a very important part. Let's move to the next question. An AI enabled fraud detection model is retrained as a part of a normal update cycle. Fine. After deployment, the security team observe that model consistently misses a specific pattern of fraudulent transaction that is previously detected. Okay. No unauthorized changes were found in the production environment or model config. Which of the following is the primary cause that would be investigated? Option A, data poisoning. Yes, that is possible, because when you say there's no unauthorized change, so during a training, someone has feed the wrong data. So example like this is called as a training phase. And this is the model. What if someone feed wrong data during a training phase? So on that it got trained. Model inversion has been removed because it is talking about infer the sensitive training data from model output. Prompt injection manipulate the model behavior through malicious input. And membership inference determine whether specific record was included in the training. So only close option is basically data poisoning, because data poisoning change what the model learn. That's the reason answer is A for alpha. Next, go for the question. Data scientist team is building an AI model to classify customer support ticket into predefined categories such as billing, technical support, account access, and compliance. The team, so here category is already mentioned. The team provide algorithm with large data set where each record is already labeled with correct category. Which of the following learning technique is being used? It is actually supervised learning, because we label the data and then we train the model on that. In unsupervised learning, we don't label the data. Machine learning basically has two types, supervised and unsupervised. So machine learning has a three type of learning. Supervised, where the labeled data is there and then we do that. Let's say example, we already flag this is spam and this is not spam. So model will use a label and according to that inspect the pattern. Unsupervised, we don't label. There's a new technique called reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning, the best use case is Netflix. Let's say, so reinforcement learning is based on a reward system. So you open Netflix, you like one series, Netflix understood the algorithm, you like this kind of a series, they will give you more videos like that. And even you like, so there's a possibility kind of profile you have, other also like that. So it is called reward and throw. That is called as a reinforcement learning. And today, if you see modern SOCs and all that, they're working on the reinforcement learning with the supervised learning. So in this case, because they already said large data sets, okay, which is labeled, that's the reason answer is supervised learning. One of the primary advantages, it's less time consuming, but disadvantage is that it will not detect the new patterns. Let's move to the next question. Okay, organization is expanding the use of a AI enabled system across several business function. Okay, so if you can see that different team are using a separate tool, data flow, platform, control approach. CISO has been asked to recommend enterprise level approach before additional AI systems are approved. Which of the following is the best way to achieve this? Option A, define AI Uh, define reusable AI design pattern, integrating standard and platform capability that support consistent development across business function. That is actually true. And it is actually focused on mainly on reusable design and development consistency. Option B, establish the common architecture for AI system component, data flow, controls, dependencies, so security technology team are evaluate implementation. See, B, support the implementation part, if you can see that. Okay, option C, adopt the AI architecture, align the AI system component, data flow, control, decision with business objective, technology and strategy management expectation. So A is already part of the C. D, say maintain the structure view of AI asset, interface processing to support the identification of the control cycle. In this condition, support security analysis lifecycle, but it does not fully address the business technology. So we have to select that option which can cover other. That's the reason answer is C for Charlie. C for Charlie. By adopting an enterprise architecture, you can integrate everything. Another interesting question. Organization deploying AI-enabled decision support system that will process sensitive customer records. Fine. The risk manager must determine how much control, strengthen monitoring and oversight should be applied to keep AI-related risk within a limit. Which of the following most directly guide the selection of control? Option A, organization define risk appetite for AI-related business, privacy and security impact. See, it is close. Risk appetite define the broad amount of type of the risk organization willing to accept. However, risk tolerance is more specific, directly drive the controls because based on the company's risk tolerance, we can define the control. Option B, organization define risk tolerance for AI-related business, privacy impact, because risk tolerance is the most direct answer because it defines the acceptable variation of a threshold. See, whenever you join any organization, the first thing you ask, what is the risk tolerance? Because we can go beyond the appetite too. Option C, organization document residual risk level after AI security privacy have been controlled. See, residual risk should what remain after the control has applied. It does not directly determine the amount and complexity of the control. Option D, organization approved risk treatment plan for reducing AI related risk to the acceptable level. It is also closed because the document how risk will be handled, but treatment plan is developed after the risk criteria such as appetite and tolerance. That's the reason answer is basically B for beta. Let's go with the next question. Organization deploy AI-enabled network detection response capability at remote site. The solution perform inference near the data source to identify abnormal network behavior and send the security issues driven to the central SOC for correlation response. The security architect ensure that communication between the edge sensors and central security will remain protected and dependable. Which of the following is the best control design? So let's say example, these are the edge sensors we have that we install on the network. And this is a basically SOAP AI we have, so we need to feed regular data so it can able to predict and analyze. So they're talking about how to secure this. Option A, mutual authentication. Definitely we have to make sure we connect with the right server, encryption transit, integrity protection and resilient connectivity required. Option B, implement encrypt communication between the edge sensors and centralized with centralized login used to detect missing or delayed. B is closed but authentication is missing. It does not clearly include the mutual authentication, integrity protection and availability. Option C, implement the device authentication network segmentation for edge AI sensors with SOC monitoring, identify normal, but again, it doesn't talk about encryptions because we are sending data over the network. Implement local AI inference here at the edge, forward only summarize detection result to the central SOC to reduce the sensitivity exposure. It is close. It can reduce the exposure, however, it does not secure the channel, ensure the dependable communication with the SOC. So that is the reason answer is basically A for alpha. And the reason is very simple is it actually covers three things. Central SOC, integrity protection, encryption in transit, mutual authentication, and more important, resilient connectivity. Because if one connection is down, we have another connection to up. Next question. Organization find employee are copying customer records internal business document into public generative AI tool to summarize content and improve productivity. Fine. CISO believe the behavior is primarily due to the employee not understanding the approved AI use, data handling expectation, confidentiality risk. Which of the following is the most appropriate awareness-based response? Option A, deliver the targeted security awareness training that explain approved AI tool, prohibit data types, confidential risk, employee responsibility when using a generative AI, which makes sense. Option B, send a company-wide awareness communication reminding employee not to provide enter customer record, confidential data, internal document into the unapproved generative AI tool. We can do that, but it does not give an assurance everyone read that. Option C, conduct role-based AI awareness training for employee who handle the customer record, focus on approve AI tool, prohibit data types, and proper escalation. But just conducting a role base for employees who handle customer record is not specific. Add generative AI awareness scenario to the annual training program covering approve AI tool, prohibit data types, example of improper data sharing, but doing annually doesn't make sense. What if some risk is basically occur before that? So that's the reason answer is basically A. If A is not there, we can still go for the C. Okay, let's move to the next question. An organization is preparing to deploy a generative AI platform for internal business use. Fine. The risk assessment identifies several AI specific concerns, including possible exposure of sensitive information, manipulation of user inputs, misuse of generative outputs. Security architect must determine which safeguards should be implemented before production use. Which of the following is the best approach for selecting an appropriate control? The question document, they're looking for a control. Okay. Option A, adopt the recognized AI control framework as a primary control baseline. Apply its safeguard consistently across all generative AI use cases. See, we can do that. Okay. But question, they're saying that all generative AI use cases. Okay. Uniformly may ignore the organization because the risk is varies from the different generative AI. Option B, map the identify AI threat to the organization existing control, which makes sense. Catalog. Based on a threat only, we can introduce a control and add AI safeguard where the current control do not adequately address the risk. Makes sense. Option C, map the identify AI threat directly to AI specific control framework and implement the recommended safeguard as a primary control. See, C is close because it mapped threat to us AI specific control, but one important thing we need to understand here is that it bypass the existing enterprise control catalog, and that may create a duplication, inconsistency, and poor integration. It's clearly mentioned a directed to AI specific control framework and implement recommend safeguard recommended. Option D, map the identified AI threat to existing enterprise control, document any AI specific gap for future remediation. See, D is close because it mapped threat to existing control, but it only document AI specific gap for future remediation. And as a security manager, we favoring addressing material control gap before production, not after deployment. So only option left in this case is B, because AI threat to the organization existing control catalog and add the safeguard where control do not adequately address the risk by introducing a compensatory. That's the reason answer is B for beta. Next coffee shot. Organization is preparing a data set to retrain an AI-enabled fraud detection model. Fine. Security are concerned that untrusted or manipulated data may enter training pipeline and influence the future model behavior, which lead to the model poisoning. Which of the following control would best reduce the risk? Option A, perform periodic review of training data source and document data sets, origin, ownership, approved use before model training. A is close, but it is more documentation, periodic source review. It may support the governance, but it does not provide strong validation integrity check before training. Option B, implement strict data validation, provenance from where it is coming check, integrity control before data is approved for the model training. So that's fine. So we have a model. Before that, we need to train the data. So right data with validation can basically make the model and data secure. So B, we can park. C, continuously monitoring the training data quality metrics, flag unusual pattern for review before retraining cycle begin. It focus actually more on the monitoring and logging unusual pattern. It is useful, but it weaker in enforcing validation. Option D, require data owner to approve new training data sets based on a source reliability, business relevance, handling requirement. See, again, it supports the accountability, but it does not support the technical validation because the concern about untrusted manipulated data. So that's the reason answer is B for beta, because B cover everything. It cover your data integrity, data provenance, data quality, and source trustworthiness. That's the reason answer is B for beta. So this is all from my side, team, and do let me know how do you find this particular video. Hope this creates some kind of a visibility among the people about AI and AI's topic in CISSP, and we're looking forward for your comments, and based on that I'm planning to release more videos on AI security and all that. If you're new to the channel, do subscribe to channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss the future videos on a similar topic. Good day, bye.